Thank you guys for coming. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Welcome to an introduction of upper body striking surfaces. We're going to talk about all the different places that you can strike an attacker or an aggressor with and how they can be more effective. In different videos we'll go through the actual technique of these things. This is going to be an overall review of what things you can use. When it comes to hitting or striking, structure really matters. If I try to hit something with a funky hand like this, as soon as it makes impact with something, I'm probably going to hurt myself or break something because I didn't have good structure in my wrist or my fist. Structures are going to be very important for when you attempt to hit essentially quite hard objects like a skull or bones of the human body. So you have to make sure you have good structure for whatever technique you're using. Momentum matters. I can't just generate a lot of force by taking a very small motion right here. Some people can, and if you've seen the Bruce Lee video of the 1-inch punch, the Long Beach Karate Tournament, it's a very impressive thing, and lots of people can do very similar things like that, but that takes a lot of training. So for someone who's just starting out and doesn't have the time and dedication to put into those types of strikes, momentum's going to matter. You're going to have to create some movement with your striking surface. And muscles matter. A big, strong person is going to hit stronger and harder than someone who is not as strong, doesn't have as big muscles. Size does matter, as it turns out, and it's an important thing to take into consideration. More important than that, though, is the efficient recruitment of muscles in the correct order. Someone with less muscle mass, but with better technique and better timing, can have a much harder strike than someone who's just big and bulky and is throwing a wild punch or strike out there. So these are very important things to consider when thinking about striking, for whether it's upper body or lower body. They all matter. When we're looking at the upper body and we talk about striking, we immediately think of our hands. So that's where we're going to start. With the hands, we can use multiple things. I can use the very tips of my fingers. For the martial art which I train in, predominantly Jeet Kune Do, we call this BOG, which is an eye jab. I believe when Bruce Lee would train this, he would talk about poking the eye and looking to pop the eyeball, which is actually quite traumatizing, and you might not want to do that to another human being. When I teach this technique, I like to think about putting the fingerprint on the eyeball, because that's going to make someone go like this, and that could be your chance to escape or to throw a couple more strikes so that you can escape. So flicking at the eyes with your fingertips is a good way. If you've got longer nails, or even just raking across the face or anywhere that's holding you to scratch the skin surface, that can be a good striking surface as well. In the Hapkido, which is one of the outside training, we call that a tiger claw. A little bit cheesy, but that's what we call it. You can use the thumb as well. I teach a lot of times to go for the eyes, to either rake, and we train by raking through the eyebrows there, but really you're pushing the eyeballs in a little bit. And again, it's not very nice to think about, but we are talking predominantly in self-defense here, and this could be something which could be the difference between your life and death, or a very traumatic experience. So using the thumb to go to the eyeball is another very effective striking surface. Then we kind of go to what we typically think about in martial arts and self-defense is fists, punching. So when I make a good fist by rolling the first knuckles in right here, and then rolling them down, and then tucking the thumb around to the corner here, making sure that my thumb is not sticking out here, because that could get caught and dislocated. Without doubt, making sure it's not inside my fist, because as soon as I make impact here, that's going to dislocate or break my thumb. So making a good fist here, making sure it's solid, and you can feel that, there's no air in it. And then also looking at the structure and the stability of your wrist. I don't want to punch like this, that's going to hurt my wrist. Like this is going to hurt my wrist, to the side is going to hurt. So having good alignment of my radius and my ulnar, the two forearm bones here, and looking down, straight down here, as if that fist is fused at this point and is unable to move around like this. With the fist, I can do typical boxing punches where I'm hitting with the front of the fist here, predominantly with these two bigger knuckles. I don't want to hit with the small knuckles, they're going to get damaged and break easier. Hitting with the two bigger knuckles, and I can do it as a horizontal punch, as a vertical punch, diagonal, wherever here. I can throw it in different ranges and different directions. It can be straight, it can come from below, it can come around from the side like a hook, or from below is like an uppercut. It can come over the top here, this way. All different types of punches we'll go through in a different video. But I don't always have to punch with that front surface. When we teach self-defense for the Bruin Self-Defense program at UCLA, we start with the hammer fist, which is hitting with this bottom part. I like doing that for several reasons. It's harder to damage yourself, especially a beginner. Even pro boxers who have got into altercations in the street have broken their hands because they're so used to fighting with good support over the wrists and 2 inches of foam around their fist. So here there are no small bones to break. It's easy to align it. You don't have to kind of have that kind of muscle memory and that strength in that wrist. You just kind of bash down, almost Neanderthal-like. And also if I miss with the fist, I hit with that forearm, which is another striking surface we've got there. So I can hit with the bottom of the fist and the front of the fist. I can also hit with the back of the fist. Now if I strike something it's quite hard, quite pointy with the flat part of my back fist here, then I've got lots of small bones here, so they might get damaged. You can do that if it's soft tissue, things like that, but I like to cock that wrist a little bit so that the two big knuckles are flared out a little bit, and that's the thing that makes impact first. So whether it's coming over the top, to the side, coming up, I can do that with, we call that a back fist. So that's another surface we can hit with. I have also seen punches with this part of the fist, we could say the top thumb, or where the thumb is. Sometimes I'm a little wary of this because that joint is there and it could be damaged, but I have seen punches that come over the top, sometimes around the back to the back of the head of the C1, C2 here, and you can hit with that surface as well. So the fist is quite versatile. You can hit with the front, the bottom, the top, or the back as well. We talked about the forearm. I can hit someone on the neck with the forearm. If someone throws a punch at me, I can block it and hit that joint with the forearm. So that's a very good striking surface as well. It's nice and solid, nice and long, so it's harder to miss with it. When I punch with that fist here, I've only got a very small striking surface, which means potential they move and miss. When I come down this way, I've got a very long, albeit thin striking surface. We move on, up the arm. Elbows. Elbows are very, very good striking surface. The elbow joint right here is a very, very hard bone. It's also very pointy and the term I like to use is sharp. So there's lots of different ways you can do elbows. We'll go through some of the elbows that we know in Muay Thai, but there's other different ways to do it as well. I can just bash with the elbow, almost like half of the forearm as well, and just kind of crash into that. Or I can go very slight and slash through with this fine point right here, which is going to cause a different type of damage. I can point with it. I can spike with it. Different ways of using the elbow. And of course, I can come up, I can come across, I can come down, straight up, I can come down this way. All different ways to use the elbow to strike at your opponent. We'll look at the target areas in another video. We come up the line and look at the shoulder and the bicep. Now the shoulder is kind of quite famous right now. It was used by McGregor in one of his fights. I believe he had kind of a clinch or maybe a half and half situation right here. And he popped the guy's head into his shoulder. We've been doing that for a long time in Jeet Kune Do. It's a technique from the Filipino martial arts, part of the Panantukan, the dirty boxing. So if I've got someone's back of their neck, maybe I'm grabbing their bicep right here to stop them punching me, or maybe I have both hands around the back of the neck. As I pull that in, I can pop that shoulder forward, and that can be quite a big surface area and quite devastating if you get hit with one of those. One of the techniques we learn with that is a combination, we call it the shake and bake, is as I hit there, as they come out, I open this arm, I fully extend my arm and actually hit them on the way out with the bicep. So it bounces right here. Bop, bop. And that's so using the bicep as a striking surface, so many people would think about, is also viable. And then last striking surface that we can talk about with the upper body is the head. Now, I've got a lot of vital components in my head. My throat, my cervical spine, a lot of my senses, my sight, my smell, my taste, and my audio. So there's a lot of things that could go wrong with this, but also top of the head is very, very hard, the crown of the head right here. So head butting with that part, whether you do it straight on this way, whether I turn to the side and drive up, or if someone's behind me, this back part of my head is pretty strong as well. So if someone's behind me and they're not very smart and they haven't got their head down, I can throw my head back and hit them with my head as well. So hitting with your head is not the best thing to think about, because it controls your computer, your control center of your body, and damaging that could be quite a bad thing to do in a fight. But if you're close in here, you can get a little knock, which allows you to get an elbow, which allows you to get a punch. Then you might be able to escape, and it could be something that sets up several other techniques. So the head is a viable striking surface area as well. So that's an overview of the different things that you can use in your upper body to strike with. Let's look at them. We've got the fingers and the thumbs. We've got, we missed out on the side of the arm right here, the side of the hand. I can also open my hand out here, and we call this a knife hand. Judo chop, seeing this in bad 60s and 70s martial arts movies, but it can be very effective. I can chop down on the neck, but it can be damaging. As I take that punch, I can hit right here as well. I can come out to the side here and use that. We call that a knife hand or a side knife in the Hapkido style that I train in. So the hands, fingers, thumbs, side of the hand, the palm heel we didn't talk about, which goes straight up to the face. Lots of different surface areas. With the fist, front, back, bottom and top are all good striking surfaces. The forearm, the elbows are quite devastating, good for close range. Shoulders and bicep, and head also good for the close range. So what we'll do in the future videos is we'll go through each of these different strikes, do a few reps together, and then you can go off, do your own reps, practice it, come back, watch the video again, look at the techniques, and try to improve every time you do it. So thank you for watching, stay safe, and enjoy your training.